Chapter 332. That's it. That was the only thought in Fujio's mind. After Chin-emo picked up his phone, time seemed to stop between the two of them. It was empty for half a second. Chin-emo lowered his eyes and looked at the youngster on the bed. The youngster was looking at him too. That face was still clean and handsome, but no matter how he looked at it, it made people want to teach him a lesson. Attack? You? Chin-emo arched a brow. Then his thin lips curved into a smile. He remained standing by the bed, but his left hand pressed down, supporting himself on the bed. Fujio could clearly feel that the mattress had sunk a little because of the Almighty's movement. Chin-emo bent his waist and put one knee on the mattress. His legs were so long and beautiful. That handsome and noble face pressed down on her without any warning. His eyes were deep and black, like poppies in bloom, with a strong sense of abstinence. The morning sun shone on his deep and straight features, making him look even more oppressive. The two of them were so close that Fujio couldn't move at all. The Almighty was so cunning that he even cut off her escape route. This position made it seem as if her entire body was trapped under him. The light minty smoke that belonged to the man assaulted her from all directions. He just looked at her. That pair of eyes that had always been indifferent seemed to be about to attack at this moment, emitting a dangerous and beautiful luster of a predator. Since you insist on being the attack, I'll have to practice with you. Let's see who's more aggressive, you or me. As Chin-emo said this, he was about to teach this troublemaker brother a lesson. His first reaction was to strip the youngster. Chin-mo's action completely alerted Fujio. Brother Emo, I have something to say about this. Fujio took a step back, but Chin-emo held her wrist. The Almighty didn't care. Oh, you still have something to say? When we play werewolf, everyone who is thrown out has to say something before they die. Fujio looked serious. Chin-emo was interested. He wanted to hear what this naughty kid had to say. He was still talking about werewolf, so he raised his eyebrows at the youngster, signaling him to continue. Anyone who plays hero knows that offense is the best defense. Fujio leaned forward, sat up straight, and kissed him on his right cheek without any warning. Her bright eyes, coupled with her silver hair, looked handsome and devilish. I want to say, Brother Emo, it's so early in the morning. Why would I think that you're interested in me when you're pounding me on the bed like that? Am I supposed to think that you're interested in me too? I can't help but kiss you. Indeed, Chin-emo didn't expect Fujio to make such a move. His fingers paused, and his mood sank. His eyes darkened like the water in a deep well. Fujio seized the opportunity to escape from the predicament. She stood with one hand in her pocket, and sighed regretfully. Brother Emo, what do you think we should do? Just when I thought I was a little straighter, you turned me gay again. This is not good, not good. At this moment, Chin-emo was so angry that he laughed. His lips curled up faintly. He straightened his body and stepped on the floor barefooted, like a god descending from the heavens. Afterward. Chapter 333. The distance between them was even closer, because both of them were standing. Moreover, Chin-emo grabbed Fujio's collar and dragged her over. Following that strength and posture, Chin-emo lowered his head and leaned forward, his thin lips inching closer to Fujio. The perfect height difference was just like what the Tokyo girls said. If the two of them kissed, the scene would be very beautiful. But Chin-emo was still rational. How could he kiss her? He was just warning his disobedient younger brother. You're so good at talking nonsense. Tell me, how should I teach you a lesson, huh? Brother Emo, do you want to hear the truth? You're the big brother, so you have to let me win. Fujio decided to change tactics. She didn't even try to dodge, and there was a slight smile on her lips. Chin-emo listened to the youngster's rascally tone and laughed instead of getting angry. You like meat? You like to play with your phone? You like to post on Weibo? The last one average. Fujio didn't have a habit of posting on Weibo, but what she said was true. Chin-emo was still holding on to her phone. He moved his fingers, letting her see for herself. Do you like to take photos? Brother Emo looks so handsome when he's sleeping. Of course I have to record such beautiful things. Fujio smiled casually. This is the first time I'm competing with so many people. And then I'm staying in a hotel room with my good friends. It's not bad to wake up like this in the morning, It'll be a memory in the future. When Chin Mo heard the youngster's words, he loosened his long fingers and tugged at the youngster. The two of them leaned back and lay down on the bed. Fujio did not expect the Almighty to make such a move. The Almighty's reaction was always different from what she expected. Therefore, he was caught off guard for a moment. When his whole body was lying on the soft mattress, she saw the Almighty raise his left hand, which was holding the phone, and his right hand pressed her head against his shoulder. Then there was a cracking sound. Her face and the Almighty's shoulder appeared on the screen. Fujio paused and tilted her head to look at the man beside her. He had never been so close to anyone before, but he was really happy. Since it's a memory, it's more meaningful to take a photo together. Chin Mo's voice was very calm, but his attitude was like he would try his best to satisfy his younger brother no matter what he wanted. In addition, he had always been very resistant to taking photos. At this moment, he actually felt that the feeling of taking a photo with another person wasn't so bad after all. It should be said that it was not bad. Chin Mo's thin lips curled up, and his side profile was so handsome that even Fujio wanted to whistle. The Almighty was so handsome that he didn't leave anyone a way out. This expression doesn't look good. Fujio took the phone over to delete it. Chin Mo reached out to stop the youngster. Your embarrassed expression is enough to make me laugh for a year. Keep it. Fujio. Why was she so touched just now? The Almighty's purpose for memory was to watch her make a fool of herself? Then I'll take another one. She was so handsome, she couldn't lose to the Almighty. This time Chin Mo let Fujio be. The two of them were still in the same position, lying on the bed. The difference was that this time, Fujio included the Almighty. The first time the two of them took a photo together was in bed. Only Fujio and Chin Mo. One was rebellious, while the other was domineering and indifferent, thought nothing of it. Ordinary people would definitely think a lot when they saw that picture. Chapter 334. So handsome. Fujio looked at the photo and whistled, with a devilish smile on her face. Just as she finished praising her handsomeness, the Almighty took away her phone and said in a deep voice, "Go drink your medicine." My phone. Confiscated. Chin Mo stood up and walked back to his bed, probably to find something to wear. Fujio's mood now was only comforting herself with good food. She also stood up and took her wallet. Brother Mo, what do you want to eat? I'll go get it. Most hotels provided free breakfast and it was a buffet. Especially in a star-rated hotel like this, the breakfast was even better. But there was still a charge to bring the food to the room. Chin Mo buttoned up the last button on his shirt and immediately said in a businesslike manner, "Let's go together after I wash up." Okay. Fujio smiled, looking exceptionally handsome. Boys were different from girls. He said he was going to wash his face and rinse his mouth. Girls washing up included eyeliner, eyebrows, BB cream, and other follow-up procedures. So it was definitely different in terms of time. In less than 3 minutes, the two of them walked out of the room and went down the elevator side by side. The hotel's restaurant was located in the lobby on the 2nd floor. Dark carpets covered the floor, and gorgeous chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Below the lights was an oval marble table, on which many colorful dishes were placed. There were Western food, Chinese food, and Japanese food. There were also fruits cut into flower shapes, which stretched down like a long dragon. In addition to these, there were also busy waiters. Because they were in Tokyo, they were also dressed as deacons. Some of them were pouring milk for the guests. They were wearing black suits and pure white gloves, which added a sense of gentleness to them. Hotel guests could choose food from here with the dining tickets in their room cards. Here, the food must be fresh. If no one came to pick it up after 10 minutes, the waiters would bring a new batch of food. Fujio and Chin Mo chose a distance from the floor-to-ceiling window. From this angle, they could see the most prosperous Tokyo streets outside the hotel. Their appearances naturally attracted many people's attention. In the past, Fujio only felt that she was handsome, so she didn't feel much about it. But now that she was with this god, it was indeed. It was mainly because the Almighty looked like a noble young master who was here for morning tea. His every move exuded nobility. Compared to the Almighty, she ate a lot. She didn't know how the Almighty's stomach worked. He only ate so little. Chinemo also wanted to ask Fujio this question. He glanced at the 3 empty plates in the youngster's hands, and finally convinced himself that he was still growing in puberty. Otherwise, I really don't know where this guy puts his food. I'm not satisfied yet. Go get another plate of fried rice. Fujio stuffed one hand into her pocket. She didn't feel like she ate much at all. Brother Mo, what else do you want? I'll bring it over. Chinemo thought about it and felt that the way some parents did things was good. They let their children do more things for them. This would give them a sense of achievement, right? Black tea. Okay. Chinemo looked at the youngster's tall and straight back, then casually looked at his phone screen. Spadesy's Weibo account hadn't been logged out, so it was obvious that he was tagging and commenting. It was quite interesting to watch. Chapter 335. That was a message that had been replied to many times. That was why he could see it so easily. Look here, don't put our almighty Chin and Spadesy together, understand? There were actually 2 types of messages like this. First, someone didn't like being tied up. Second, they wanted to attract attention. Obviously, this person was the second type. Otherwise, he wouldn't have kept replying. I was a bit impulsive just now, but let me say this first, I like Big Spade too. Whether he likes Spadesy or not was another matter. After Chinemo clicked on that person's message, he only had one feeling. This person was imitating Spadesy in everything, and wanted to become an internet celebrity. Chinemo was a businessman. As a businessman, it was easy to see the essence through appearances. It wasn't impossible that Spadesy could attract attention, and wanted to spend money on him. Of course, Chinemo didn't rule out the possibility that this person might have really liked Spadesy from the start. But this liking wasn't pure. First, he pretended to be a fan, then he imitated Spadesy, and finally, he posted such a message to attract attention. Anyone with a brain could see what he was thinking. This reply must have been avoided by the true Spade fans through the manipulation of public opinion. But some people couldn't see through it, and kept interacting with that person. Almighty, I know you are a Spadesy fan too. That's why you said such words. It's to make my Big Spade better. It's okay, good luck. That person replied, I love Big Spade the most, hug. Then a few people started replying happily. I want to touch him. I caught Almighty. I realized he is similar to my Big Spade. He speaks so righteously, I'm a fan too. The topic that had already died down was stirred up again. Those who claimed to be Spadesy's fans didn't realize they had become accomplices to hurt Spadesy. They said they liked him, but they were helping a person who was trying to imitate Spadesy to become famous. In fact, Chinemo didn't care what this person was planning, but he didn't want his brother to see such a disgusting thing. If it wasn't good enough to guide the public opinion, he would add more. This time, Chinemo didn't post on Weibo directly. Instead, after 2 glances at the reposts, he accurately locked onto a person called Sister Turtle. Then he clicked on her nickname and sent a private message. I'll post something about someone on Weibo later. Is there a problem with it? Sister Turtle had imagined many times how their Big Spade would send her a private message on Weibo. But she didn't expect Almighty Chin to send her a private message first. Even Sister Turtle, an experienced and knowledgeable white-collar worker, almost choked on her water. However, they were all people in the workplace, so their words were straightforward. No problem. Sister Turtle didn't ask why Almighty Chin came to talk to her. Smart people would understand once they saw the things on Weibo. Just now, she was still worried that the scheming person would appear again. After all, no matter how good you were to yourself, you couldn't control the thoughts of others. Somehow he could empathize with them. Her heart ached for Big Spade, the youth who said, "Justice may be late, but it is never absent." She was being hurt, but some people who said they liked her became her accomplices. This matter must be stopped. Sister Turtle heaved a sigh of relief at the Almighty's timely appearance. Chapter 336. Sister Turtle was not a fan of the CP. She also knew that there should be a deep brotherhood between esports players. Since the last incident, it could be seen that Almighty Chin was really good to their Big Spade. But someone called their Big Spade Wasn't that too? Sister Turtle shook her head. As a professional woman, she didn't want to be like those cute high school students. She just needed to protect Big Spade. Sister Turtle thought about it, and waited for the Weibo post about someone mentioned by Almighty Chin to be sent again. At this time, in a star hotel in Tokyo, Chin Mo's fingers moved, logged into his official Weibo, and posted the edited photo of the youngster. He edited a few words in a very simple tone. Both offensive and defensive are shown immediately. Sister Turtle's computer page stayed on Chin Mo's Weibo. When she saw the photo, she was completely stunned. In the photo, the silver-haired youngster looked at the camera with a smile. Even the curve of the corner of his mouth seemed to be smart and handsome. He squinted his left eye, looking very flirtatious. The black ear stud was very eye-catching. And Almighty Chin cooperated with the youngster, tilting his head down in a very domineering manner. His dark eyes seemed to be overflowing with light, and he even showed his collarbone. He was really aggressive. The two people's temperaments were completely different. In the photo, not only did it not erase their original advantages, but it also highlighted each other's nobility. They were so handsome that people just wanted to scream. But the photo also had special effects. The pair of hairy black devil ears on the top of the head was really beautiful. And they were using pillow, right? What was going on? Sister Turtle's hand holding the mouse was a little confused. Again, she really was not a fan of the CP. But if it kept going like this, she couldn't stop thinking about it. Such a photo with Almighty Chin's words was very meaningful. What was Almighty Chin doing? Even if he was giving out candy, it was not like this. His official Weibo would be blown up. It would indeed be blown up. Over there, the person who wanted to use the topic of Spadesy to become popular was still interacting with the 2 or 3 people who claimed to be Spadesy's fans, wanting others to recognize her. On this side, there was already a huge uproar. He was so handsome that the whole screen was flooded. F***CK, F***CK, is there something wrong with my eyes? Group photo? A photo of us lying on the bed? Oh, so handsome. 2 demons, so handsome, so handsome. What should I do? Previous poster, you have no hope. Didn't you see the caption that the Almighty posted? The Almighty is on the left, and Spade is on the right. I don't want to say anything else. I just want to ask the Almighty, how long will you keep giving out sweets? I'm afraid my HP will be empty and I'll have a nosebleed. My heart is beating so fast after seeing this photo. Almighty, look at the way you're looking at Big Spade. It's so obvious. A long time ago, I had a crush on an esports guru. His Weibo was always posted every year. Moreover, it was a game guide. But now he had changed. I don't want to tell you the reason, but as a single dog, I automatically accept this bowl of dog food. I really want to run 2 laps downstairs. My most beloved male god and my second most beloved male god are finally in the same frame. This situation. I actually feel so blessed. I want to be a CP fan. Chapter 337. After Chin Mo's fan mentioned it. Only then did the others realize that, indeed, the Almighty's Weibo was filled with Big Spade's Weibo, apart from the games that he had posted before. That's right, everything was about Big Spade. And if this had happened in the past, posting photos? Hee, the Almighty even wanted to wear a black mask to cover his handsome face when he was playing. The media didn't dare to take pictures of him. But look at this. Why did the Almighty post photos? And he blocked all other voices with these 3 words in such a domineering manner. What was he trying to say? Everyone knew what he was trying to say. The Almighty didn't just say it when he said he would protect Big Spade last time. Thinking back to the reply someone had sent here, most of them understood what was going on. The Almighty is here to get revenge for Big Spade. I like this way of getting revenge. I hope the Almighty will come here more often in the future. Almighty Chin and my Big Spade are in the same frame, Seeing this, Sister Turtle reposted Chin Mo's Weibo without hesitation and tagged Fujio. Attack, receive, immediately show poor my Big Spade. You are so handsome, but you still can't attack Almighty Chin. Spade's true fan saw Sister Turtle move, and he immediately followed. Attack, receive, immediately show touch my Big Spade. Fight again next time? This basically depends on temperament. I firmly believe that my big spade is the attack, second only to one and above millions. Don't mess around, Almighty Chin just happens to be that one person. Chin Mo's fingers slid through the Weibo page, and he looked at those Spade's true fans tagging him, and the corner of his mouth curved up. That sentence, second only to one and above millions, Almighty Chin just happens to be that one person. It was inexplicably pleasing to the eye. Involuntarily his fingertips moved and he liked it. That Spade's fan, who never thought that she would be flipped, was stunned. Almighty Chin was really closer than she thought. Wow 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 wow. The Almighty gave me a like. The Almighty is saying that big spade is the attack. The Almighty is so black-bellied. I just want to know what my big spade can say. In the morning, you said I was so handsome, so I must be the attacker. Now I'm being attacked. Fujio had no idea what was going on the official Weibo account. She had a piece of hot toast in her mouth, one hand in her pocket, and the other hand was holding a tray. The food on the tray was especially sumptuous. You only eat fried rice? Chin Mo looked up from the phone screen and glanced at the youngster in front of him. The corners of Fujio's mouth curled up. Her smile was as bright as the sun, and it was hard to fade. I always feel hungry. It must be because of the lack of meat. It's also possible that I'm growing. Chin Mo's fingers were still moving. Remembering that the youngster was still in puberty, he frowned. Have you felt any knee pain recently? Fujio shook her head. No. Her chest would occasionally swell up, but it was true. How could she still be growing at this age? It was a little disadvantageous for her. Buy some vitamins after dinner. It's for prevention. Chin Mo was thinking about the situation he would face when he was growing up, but he didn't expect the youngster in front of him to be in a different situation. Chapter 338. Chin Mo lifted his lids and leaned back, sitting elegantly on the chair. You want to know? Let's see. As he said this, he pushed the phone in front of the youngster with a faint smile on his face. Fujio raised her eyebrows and looked at the screen that hadn't dimmed yet. There was a photo with 4 words. Attack, receive, immediate, present. And all the comments, all of which were pitying her. The receive? Receive. Didn't the little cuties see her fierce and aggressive eyes? The Almighty was indeed aggressive, but she wasn't bad either. Fujio's fingers paused. No wonder the Almighty, who didn't let her take the phone, pushed it away from her. It was all a trick. Fujio couldn't enjoy the handsome photo of herself and the Almighty anymore. What attack and receive? Chin Mo looked at the depressed face of the youngster with the toast in his mouth and smiled happily. Don't talk. Fujio pointed at him. Chin Mo was a big brother, so he wouldn't listen to his little brother. Your fans have good taste, especially when it comes to our positions. Brother Mo, you are exposed, I am exposed, so I am also on the offensive. Fujio took the tray as she spoke, using food to make up for this defeat. That photo on Weibo had already blown Lin Feng up. He asked Yunhu along the way. Did Captain really sleep with Little Spade? What method did Little Spade use to get Captain to take a photo with him? And Captain even learned to say attack and receive. Shouldn't our team be full of straight men? Even if others are gay, Captain should be the representative of millions of straight men. You mean can you be gay? Yunhu showed his room card and walked into the magnificent hall. Lin Feng shook his head immediately. No. Then shut up and take the food. Yunhu took a tray. Lin Feng fixed his eyes on it and strode towards Fujio's table. He was first shocked by the number of empty plates on the table, and then he said to Chin Mo seriously, Captain, I came to find Little Spade to eat together. Little Spade, let's see what else you want to eat. If he wanted to ask questions, he had to drag him away alone. Fujio wouldn't refuse good food, so she smiled and was about to get up. Chin Mo's voice was calm. He has already eaten 7 plates, 1 toast and 3 glasses of juice. Are you sure you want him to continue eating? These words were directed at Lin Feng. When those deep eyes looked at him again, there was a hint of pressure. Lin Feng immediately loosened his grip. Chin Mo raised the porcelain cup and took a sip of iced Americano. The chill immediately dissipated quite a bit. Since he couldn't pull them apart, Lin Feng could only beat around the bush. After all, the two main characters in the photo were there. Little Spade. How did you sleep last night? Where's classmate phone? Why don't I see him? That's right, don't know that Captain and the others are already in the same room. However, Fujio replied to this question very meaningfully. She said in an evil tone, "Take a guess. Guess your sister." Was Little Spade his biological brother? If you're my brother, then tell me the truth. Lin Feng turned his face and kept communicating with Fujio with his eyes. Fujio held a piece of chewing gum in her mouth, and a bubble came out as she chewed. She looked so handsome, but she was asking for a beating. However, the captain didn't care about this guy. Chapter 339. Attack. Chinemo raised his eyebrows and laughed. He said coldly, "It's the same whether you wear clothes or not. That face is too beautiful, so it'll be even worse if you take it off. Don't even think about it." Lin Feng. 10,000 points of critical hit. Fujio couldn't help but laugh. Lin Feng felt that it wasn't suitable for him to stay here in this situation. Yinhu stood behind him, dragging 2 plates. "The whole team has pictures of you with your shirt off. How can you say that you are the attack?" Fujio was interested. "Where? Let me see." Lin Feng pulled Yinhu over and said seriously, "Little Spade, I have something to discuss with your brother Yinhu. You and Captain can continue eating." How could he pull Yinhu with his strength? Yinhu could knock him down with one hand. But Yinhu liked to tease him, so he let Lin Feng pull him away. Fujio saw that there was meat on the tray, and her eyes lit up. Unfortunately, the Almighty moved faster than her. He moved his fork and said calmly, "Let me help you destroy such a sinful thing. You want to see pictures of people with their shirts off? My brother's interests are really different. Actually, I only want to see Brother Mo's." Fujio smiled and blinked her left eye. "So Brother Emo, you can give me your phone and let me see it again." Chinemo was not moved at all. "Your eyes are red, and you still want to take your phone? If you want to see it so much, I'll take it off in my room." Fujio paused slowly. The Almighty was so cunning and not easy to deal with. And she didn't know if it was because she always flirted with him, but he was getting better at avoiding flirting. Fujio was still a little depressed. Yinhu and Lin Feng came with other team members. Because today was the last day of training, everyone was wearing a very handsome combat uniform. This attracted a lot of attention from the diners. They could vaguely hear people talking in Japanese. Are they esports players? It seems so. Every one of them looks very imposing. Unfortunately, they are not from Tokyo. There is a handsome young man over there, like a character from a manga. Esports was very popular in Tokyo. Even Lin Feng, a big man, felt that he was being watched. However, today, Secretary Liang really wasn't in the mood to replace Manager Feng and lead the Supreme Alliance to the training. He was standing at the entrance of the hotel restaurant. His expression was so conflicted that he didn't look like the capable and handsome CEO's assistant that he usually was. Who could tell him what the situation was? There's President Qin, who was so cold that he could freeze people to death, and no one in Jiang City dared to take a picture of him, was now on the hot search list. There were still 2 people in the photo, and both of them were extremely handsome. But Secretary Liang really couldn't appreciate that handsomeness. First, he made an international call to someone he knew, and with great difficulty he suppressed the popularity on Weibo. In the end, Madam had called him. To call him at this time, it would be strange if Manager Feng did not feel conflicted. The waiter at the side couldn't stand it anymore. He stepped forward politely and asked, "Sir, is there anything we can help you with?" At first, the waiter spoke in Dongjing dialect. Seeing that Secretary Liang was still frowning, he repeated it in English. Only then did Secretary Liang realize that there were still people around. He immediately smiled warmly. "Thank you, but no, it's a phone call." As he spoke, Secretary Liang took a step and walked towards a quiet place. Chapter 340. Hello, Madam. Secretary Liang had mixed feelings when he said the first sentence. If Madam asked him about the photo, how would he answer? Could it be that he felt something was wrong with CEO Chin recently? Or maybe it was nothing. It was just that the people in the same team had a good relationship. What the F***ck CEO Chin had been alone since he was a kid. Except for those in the compound, who else had he been close to? When he was in high school, he had a group of people following him. At that time, CEO Chin didn't look like a third-generation soldier. He looked like the boss of the school. Now that he was in college, he looked like a CEO. There were many people who admired CEO Chin, but the one who was especially close to him was Fujio. However, he could not rule out the possibility that it was a bond between brothers. He had to be honest. Secretary Liang calmed himself down and asked in a professional tone, "Madam, what can I do for you?" The beauty on the other side of the phone was a little depressed. "Liang, I am here. My son found you." Secretary Liang wanted to say that CEO Chin found me long ago, but Madam only found out now. His eyes were full of tears. "Why didn't you tell me that Emo was talking to a boy? You made me so excited." Secretary Liang's heart skipped a beat. "You knew?" "Yes, I knew. The beauty side. I told you, it's impossible for him to change. Help me keep an eye on him. See if there are any other girls in front of him. If there aren't any, create an opportunity for him to meet them." Secretary Liang wanted to say that he had changed, but no, as the CEO's assistant, he couldn't just guess. "Yes, madam. I have arranged it, but CEO Chin is not happy. For example, during this special training in Tokyo, he felt like he was about to be abandoned. Because of the Cali team, CEO Chin looked at him with coldness. Secretary Liang knew that was a warning. You can't go too far. The beauty thought about it and said, then you can pay attention to who he is close to. Guys are fine too, but don't let him be too cold. Secretary Liang opened his mouth. Guys are fine too? Brothers, of course. Mo can't sleep alone, so I heard that he found a good friend to keep him company. After saying that, the beauty bit her teeth. It doesn't seem like something he would do. It's weird. Secretary Liang. So the president really slept with young Master Joe last night. Those photos weren't taken randomly, right? Why did he feel even more exhausted? All right, I'm going to join the crew. Let's keep up the catchphrase. Secretary Liang listened to the sound of the phone being hung up. What the hell was the slogan? Madam asked him to do this, and he couldn't refuse. It's not that I can't refuse, madam. But he couldn't refuse his boss. When Secretary Liang received this order, he would first report it to his boss. The boss smiled faintly and said, That's good. You can train your undercover skills. By the way, your CEO Chin's anti-reconnaissance skills are very good. But you have to understand a mother's concern for her son. Go. In other words, my son will definitely find you, so you have to go too. Secretary Liang took a deep breath. He couldn't bear to look back on the past. He had to think carefully about how he was going to work from now on. First of all, Chapter 341. Because of the photo, the atmosphere among the Supreme Alliance members was a bit strange. Especially Feng Shang. His eyes were full of grievance. He wanted to sue the captain, but didn't want to see the lawsuit. Who hasn't seen the fighting video of Sakura Stream Squad? Chin Mo was the one who broke the atmosphere. Counting on Fujio? The young man only knew how to smile evilly, which made people think of elegance. Although Yin Wuya was no longer in this circle, he was a professional, so he would pay attention to this aspect. The ones who hadn't seen it were Shui Yaoyao, Feng Shang, and Fujio. Everyone watch it again. Lin Feng is responsible for explaining. Chin Mo said and stood up. Let's go to the hotel conference hall. Such a hotel usually had a conference hall, but it was expensive. But since Secretary Liang was here, this kind of thing would definitely be arranged properly. All the members sat on both sides of the conference room, which was a very cool scene that could only be seen in movies. Yun Hu skillfully turned on the computer, then plugged in the USB drive, and the picture was projected on the big screen in the conference room. The captain of Sakura Stream Squad, Yamaguchi. He used to fight with the captain, and he is best at close combat. According to the style of Sakura Stream Squad, he must be training urgently now. There are two other members. I am familiar with Lin Feng. This ranking match is 5v5, and Linfeng and I will deal with these two. The most worth mentioning is him, Shuji. Everyone looked at the photo, and their eyes became sharp. It's him. Yes, it's the person we met in the training base yesterday. Yinhu's expression didn't change at all. He just joined Sakura Stream Squad this year, but he has already become an official member. The reason why Sakura Stream Squad is so murderous this time is because of him. This person is best at sneak attacks, and his character is full of hostility when he operates it. He is famous for being bloodthirsty, so in this team competition, we need to be wary of him jumping out of the grass and suddenly attacking us. Someone couldn't help saying, his hand speed shouldn't be as fast as Little Spade. The hero is not just about hand speed. Little Spade can indeed avoid his sneak attacks, but our speed is not as fast as him. This is 5v5 ranking. Yinhu put down the pen and reminded everyone of the most critical point. Here is the video of Shuji's sneak attack. Everyone watch it. Time is tight, and this is all we can collect. With that, Yinhu tapped open the video. The members of the Supreme Alliance watched helplessly as the two people who were attacking on the main road were suddenly frozen in place by a red shadow that jumped up from behind. Then, the red shadow moved back and forth 3 times, completing a double kill in an instant. Surprisingly, he was unscathed. Such a person would be very troublesome to deal with, whether it was attacking or defending a city. The Supreme Alliance members all looked at each other. They saw the same thing in each other's eyes. The conference room suddenly fell silent. There was only one thought in everyone's mind, and that was how they would deal with this person if they encountered him. Everyone knew that the friendly match the next day would be no less difficult than the national competition. Shui Yaoyao and Feng Shang were even more shocked. As two pure newbies, they finally felt what real esports was. Joining the Supreme Alliance was just the beginning. Chapter 342. It didn't matter. They would definitely win. They still had Spadesy. Thinking of this, Shui Yaorao and Feng Shang looked at Fujio together. Fujio didn't laugh this time. She just looked at the video, thinking about something. At this time, Shui Yaoyao and Feng Shang didn't know that in order to protect Fujio's eyes, Chinemo didn't plan to let Fujio play. After watching the video of Sakura Stream's game, the atmosphere of the whole team changed. It was a kind of change in the eyes, which could make people immerse in it unconsciously. When everyone started training, it was already too late. Fujio's hands were a little itchy. In the beginning, she just sat there with a lollipop in her mouth. Later, her eyes began to involuntarily fall on the bright screen. Chinemo sat far away from Fujio, put out the cigarette between his fingers, stood up, and walked to the youngster. Look up. Apply the medicine. Chinemo was indeed a good brother, even carrying eye drops with him. When Fujio applied the medicine, she couldn't help but tilt her head to look at the screen. Chinemo's fingers were still lifting the youngster's chin. Seeing him tilt his head, he didn't say anything. But Fujio opened her mouth. She blinked her stung eye, and became blind in one eye. I'd better play tomorrow. I'm afraid I can't stop that Shuji without me. His hand speed was really fast. Not just fast, but most importantly, you didn't know when he would come out. In the game, hiding in the grass could make you invisible. To deal with him, in addition to fast reaction and accurate positioning, the most important thing was to understand the way of sneak attack. Fujio was a hacker. Compared with Shuji, she was better at camouflage attacks, so she could deal with what she was good at. Chinmo's voice was very calm. I'm here, don't worry. Fujio wanted to say something. Chinemo raised his eyebrows. What? You don't believe me? Hearing that, Fujio laughed. I believe you, then I'll cheer for you in the waiting area. When did it start? The two of them gradually became this close. In the beginning, they got along with each other with a smell of gunpowder. But now they both knew what each other was like. The trust of the strong didn't need to be said much. But Fujio still felt a little regret. I thought I could fight with you, Brother Emo. What a pity. When he said this, the young man was smiling. Chinemo kept the eye drops and stuffed them into his trouser pocket. His other hand ruffled Fujio's silver hair. Don't say oh. It'll be more believable. This guy's words were so annoying. How did he manage to endure it? Was it because he was good-looking? Fujio was indeed good-looking. She lifted her hand and placed it on Chinmo's shoulder. Brother Emo, look at my serious eyes. I only saw the redness. Chinmo frowned. It's not good to stay indoors all the time. I'll bring you out for a walk. Our goal is the National League. If your eyes are still like this, they will be affected. Fujio really couldn't stay here. It hurt her eyes to look at the computer screen all the time. After hearing Chinmo's words, Fujio understood the gravity of the situation. She put on a plush black coat and followed Chinmo out. This time, Secretary Liang didn't dare to follow anymore. The outdoor air in Tokyo was very fresh. In addition, because it was too cold, snow had already started to fall. Everything looked very beautiful. Chapter 343. But in the next second Fujio, who was about to walk forward, paused. The afternoon light shone on her body warmly. People were walking to and fro on the business street, and some were looking up. Some were exclaiming, some were laughing, and some were talking. Gosh, that must be our number one. The number one team in the whole server, my favorite Hoshino, he's so handsome. I even went to buy Hoshino's merchandise yesterday. I love him so much that I couldn't get a lot of things. Did you see that smile just now? My heart was trembling. That person was asking the girl standing next to Fujio. Then he turned around and saw a silver-haired handsome young man who was no less handsome than Hoshino. He was stunned. Fujio's eyes fell on the large LED screen on the business street. She was very familiar with that person. So familiar that she stopped abruptly. Of course, Chinmo noticed that the young man didn't keep up. He turned around and saw that the young man was lifting his chin with his left hand in his pocket. His eyes were full of tenderness as he watched the scene on the screen. Tenderness? Not completely. There were too many other emotions. What kind of person could make someone stare at him like that? Chinmo also saw that scene. Hoshino, an esports player who had emerged in the past 2 years, was extremely popular in Tokyo. The reason why he was liked by so many people was not only because of his achievements, but also because of his face, which was comparable to that of a movie star. Do you know him? This was Chinmo's first question. Fujio turned her head, and her silver hair fell down. How could that be? I just think he's handsome. Really? Chinmo didn't continue this topic. Fujio laughed. Actually, I know him, but he doesn't know me. I've watched his games and the scene is good. Chinmo looked at the young man again, and his voice was very calm. Got it. The Almighty said that he got it, but it seemed that he didn't believe her words. Fujio also knew that her behavior was a bit obvious. It was only when Hoshino appeared that she stopped. But she didn't plan to do anything. In life, one had to look forward. Hoshino should be living a happy life now. That was enough to know. She didn't touch any of her bank accounts and bank cards, because she wanted to cover up her identity. Once the matter here was settled, he would go and deal with the others. However, Fujio didn't know that in the eyes of others, she had a different expression. Chinmo looked at the youngster without any expression on his face. His fingers paused for a moment, and his long and narrow eyes seemed to have lost some of the warmth they should have. In the end, because they had walked too far, they had to take a bus back. Because of the roads, there was only public transportation. The Tokyo tram was heated and very clean. But as long as it was public transportation, there would be a lot of people. The scenery outside the car window kept changing. Fujio felt a little squeezed. Chinmo was even more unsuited for such an environment. Fujio wondered if this was the Almighty's first time taking public transportation. She had been staring at that handsome and noble side profile for too long. An uncle came up and was about to bump into Fujio. Chapter 344. Fujio pressed her head against it. It smelled a lot better in an instant. Although the trams in Tokyo were clean, but there were many people, so it still smelled good. Now it was gone. Fujio touched her nose and lifted her head. She found out that she and the Almighty were in such a position that she wanted to kiss him. Seriously, don't blame her for thinking too much. She had been teased by the Almighty recently. If Chinemo knew what the young man was thinking, he would have laughed coldly. Who was teasing whom? There were people behind and people in front. Chinemo was like a dead end. Fujio didn't move back. She pressed her head against Chinemo's. Finally, she found it interesting, so she used her fluffy head to push against him. In such an environment, the Almighty couldn't do anything to her. Chinemo really couldn't do anything to the young man. He held the young man's back with one hand and grabbed the bracelet on the tram with the other. His face was extremely handsome. Who knew that the guy in his arms would be so naughty? After Fujio bumped into him, she clearly heard the Almighty's sigh. She was amused and continued to push. Chinemo lowered his eyes and looked at the head that was still trying hard in his arms. The little silver swirl on the top of her head made her look especially cute. He resisted the urge to throw the young man out of the tram like trash. He lowered his voice and said in a tone that sounded like an older brother educating his younger brother. "You've had enough, haven't you?" Fujio smiled. She pressed against him and stopped. After being teased by the young man, Chinmo's inexplicable discomfort dissipated a lot. Even the corners of his mouth lifted a little. He was a little crazy, because the tram was too crowded. Therefore, there was nothing wrong with their current posture. It was just that Fujio's head was slightly below Chinmo's shoulder. The silver-haired young man lowered his eyes, and the man looked like he was abstinent and domineering. Someone wanted to take a picture of this scene. However, at the next stop, the two got off. Chinemo walked out first. It was a street with good air, but without that fluffy head in front of his chest, he felt a little uncomfortable. But even so, Chinemo didn't forget the young man's gaze when he stood under the building and looked up at the screen. They should know each other. It was impossible not to know from that gaze. But according to the information he got, the young man didn't have any interaction with Hoshino. That's right. Chinemo had investigated Fujio. At the very beginning. Just how early was it? As early as the first time Coco pointed at the computer and showed him a beautiful character in the game. Spade Z. The letter Z at the end successfully caught his attention. Z0. The technique was very similar, and it matched with his understanding of Z back then. His suspicions grew even stronger when he found out that Spade Z was capable of cyber attacks. But when he found out that Spade Z was Fujio, that layer of suspicion completely faded away. Even though he did not know what Zero looked like, he was sure it was a woman. Chinemo tilted his head and glanced at the youngster beside him. And Fujio, the rich playboy who used to pester him to be his sugar daddy, was unlikely to be Zero. But Chinemo didn't let go of any possibility. He sent someone to investigate where Fujio was on the day of the attack at the 5th Avenue 3 years ago. Chapter 345. Fujio saw that Chinemo was looking at her, and immediately smiled evilly. Then, she felt her inflamed eyes itch, so she raised her hand to rub them. Chinemo was one step faster than the youngster. He grabbed her wrist, and his side profile was handsome. "Don't touch, there are many germs on your hand." Fujio felt that this kind of minor illness was harder to treat than a broken arm. She just needed to reattach the broken arm. Something like eye inflammation. Really needed time. Feeling that the youngster couldn't bear it, Chinemo simply took the youngster back to the hotel. That posture made Manager Fong, who had just arrived in Tokyo, stunned. He couldn't figure out the situation. However, Manager Fong was the smartest not to ask what he shouldn't ask. Before the official battle, with the return of Manager Fong, the Supreme Alliance, who had been depressed all afternoon, finally felt a little more at ease. The next day, the snow stopped, and the sky was blue and beautiful. The friendly match was held at the training base yesterday. Since it was a friendly match, of course, the media wouldn't be informed. But some people in Tokyo would always know about it through some grapevine. There were 1 or 2 esports reporters who came. Of course, their focus was on Sakura Stream, not a team that didn't even enter the top 4 in Huaxia. In fact, there is no suspense at all in this match. One of the reporters adjusted his camera, feeling a little bored. The opponent will definitely be suppressed by Sakura Stream, and can't even move. Another reporter yawned. You can't say that. There is still something to watch in this match, such as Shuji's performance. My boss told me to write more. Hearing their words, another Tokyo esports fan who came to watch the match shook his head in disagreement. Reporters these days, they just spout nonsense without investigating clearly. Although he was from Tokyo, he wasn't a fan of Sakura Stream. It was Chin Mo of the Supreme Alliance. Last year, the Supreme Alliance didn't enter the top 4 completely because Almighty Chin didn't participate. In this match, it was hard to say who would win. They are coming. The two reporters suddenly became spirited, and their eyes also shook with excitement. Snap, snap, snap. 3 consecutive shots were taken at Sakura Stream Team who entered the field. Sakura Stream Team's uniform was in line with the local aesthetic of Tokyo. On the back of the pure white shirt, there was a logo and blooming cherry blossoms. The tallest among them was their captain Yamaguchi. His height didn't look like someone who played esports, but more like someone who played basketball. Following closely behind was Shuji, who was the most popular candidate. He had a red bandage on his forehead, making his handsome face look even more devilish and murderous. As soon as the Sakura Stream people came in, the others who came to watch the battle also stood up. The arena wasn't big, but it could accommodate dozens of people. There were still a lot of Sakura Stream fans, and that side was full of spectators. In contrast, the audience on the opposite side of Sakura Stream School was calm and somewhat desolate. In Tokyo, it was not uncommon for people to fly from one city to another for their favorite esports players. From this, it could be seen that the other party's strength was nothing much. He didn't even have a die-hard fan. However, they did not know. The reason why there was no one here was because Supreme Alliance had always done things this way. In Manager Feng's words, every time their Almighty Chin showed his face, he had to pay by the second. How could he let anyone come in to watch and film? Chapter 346. The closer it was to the national competition, the more secretive their tactics were, the better it was for them. So Manager Feng simply hid the Supreme Alliance's movements. Even though the whole nation knew that the Supreme Alliance was in Tokyo, they didn't know where they were playing. TSK, so miserable. That reporter couldn't help but shake his head again. He thought it was a good topic, so he took a picture of the audience with only 1 or 2 people. Only by comparison can we show the strength of our Tokyo. Just as he was saying this, he heard a noise from the opposite side. Under the light and shadow, 13 people walked out neatly. Each of them was wearing the same uniform, a dark black coat with a circle of pure white fox fur, similar to a cloak, which made them look like knights that only appeared in comics. Which team's uniform looked like this? Wasn't it too extravagant? Extravagant? Was money a problem for the Supreme Alliance? Of course not. Manager Feng smiled like a fox, the kind that hid a knife in his smile. Chin Mo took the lead. Fujio stood on his left, and Yin who stood on his right. Everyone had their own unique style, which immediately formed a handsome and threatening scenery. Especially Fujio's silver hair, which was simply eye-catching, not to mention the lollipop in her thin lips. The 2 reporters on the opposite side didn't expect that the people of this team would have such an aura. Especially the one who took the lead, so noble and domineering, with an indescribable sense of shock. So handsome. Is this the weak team from Huaxia? They look pretty good. Maybe it's just their good-looking faces. But they are too good-looking. People like them can be stars. No matter how good-looking they are, they will be destroyed today. Boys and girls had different ways of thinking. In the esports arena, what was the use of being good-looking? Good skills were the real handsome ones. Shuji, who was standing over there, also saw Fujio. He immediately turned his head, gave her a thumbs up, and then slowly fell down. This action of his caused a commotion among the audience. Sakura Stream. Victory. Sakura Stream. Victory. Amidst the loud cheers, Fujio looked at his actions. He had one hand in his pocket, and his handsome face didn't look annoyed. Instead, the corners of his mouth curled up a little, looking like he didn't care at all. The youth's arrogant attitude was even more infuriating. Shuji narrowed his eyes, pointed at Fujio, and said to Yamaguchi, "Captain, I'll keep an eye on him." Yamaguchi didn't know about the conflict between them yesterday, so he was a little surprised by Shuji's request. Okay, but remember, the person we're going to deal with this time is Chin Mo. Chin Mo? Isn't it the one with the hand injury? Shuji didn't take it seriously. I'll leave him to you, Captain. I'll kill them after I'm done with that guy. Yamaguchi frowned. Shuji, Supreme Alliance is different from the teams we met before. Don't underestimate them. Chapter 347. Shuji seems to be fiercer than usual today. Ha, this is going to be interesting. When Shuji fights, even 4 people can't stop him. Is Shuji going to go on a killing spree? I'm looking forward to it. The passion of the fans was irresistible. In the midst of such cheers, Manager Feng shook hands with the manager of the other team with the same smile. Shall we start? The manager of Sakura Stream Team wanted to say a few more words to show off their achievements, or at least to finish the small talk. But after hearing Feng Yi's words, he swallowed his words to show his generosity. Let's start. It was not an official competition, so there were no 1v1 or duo matches. There was only a 5v5 siege match. But even if it was a friendly match, it still followed the international esports rules. In the wild game of Hero, everyone could die an unlimited number of times and come back to the city to be resurrected. But in a real esports competition, everyone could only die 3 times. After the 3rd time, they had to leave the computer. Obviously, the focus of the so-called siege matches was to attack the city. As long as the opponent's city was destroyed, they would win. This was also the difference between Hero and other games, as it paid great attention to the cooperation of the team. Shuji couldn't sit still anymore. He put on the black wristband and stood up. His eyes were fixed on Fujio. But Fujio just laughed and leaned back with a lollipop in her mouth, looking really handsome and annoying. According to Shuji's temper, he got angry immediately. Little Spade. What are you doing? Why are you staring at him? Lin Feng wanted to make fun of her before going on stage. Unexpectedly, Fujio said seriously, "This guy is impetuous, so provoking him will help us. If you want to provoke him, don't do it here. Let's go on stage." Lin Feng was about to pull Fujio up. But at this time Qin Mo's calm voice came over. He won't go on stage. What? Not only Lin Feng, but also In Wuyao, who was next to him, was shocked. Little Captain won't go on stage? Little Captain is so good at fighting he won't go on stage? Are you kidding me? His eyes are inflamed, so he'd better not play games for 3 days. Qin Mo's face was still as elegant as ever. However, that invisible pressure never disappeared. Lin Feng and In Wuyao couldn't help but worry. If Spadesy wasn't there, their attack. Yin, who was calm. Captain, who's going to fight? You, me, Lin Feng, In Wuyao. Qin Mo said, Shui Yao Yao. Shui Yao Yao was stunned. Her? Could she do it? There were so many Supreme Alliance members here. She really didn't expect the Almighty to choose her. Qin Mo didn't say anything. She reached out her hand and touched Shui Yao Yao's head. You're good at healing, so you'll be in charge of supporting the offense. Run back and forth in the wilderness and heal whoever you see dying. Don't worry, it'll be fine. With Brother Mo here, you have to believe that Almighty Qin chose you because he has faith in you. The corner of Lin Feng's mouth would twitch every time the youth said, "Oh." Qin Mo watched the youngster's actions. His eyes turned cold, but he didn't say anything. After the commentator and the referee were in position, Qin Mo stood up indifferently, tilted his handsome chin, and bit the zipper of his jacket with his thin lips. He took off the jacket with his right hand and threw it to Fujio. Let's go. Chapter 348. Baby Feng was left behind. And before Almighty Qin left, he gave him a very important task. That was to keep an eye on his idol, and not let that guy rub his eyes all the time. This was Almighty Qin's smoothness, but Feng Shang felt that this task was quite difficult, especially when he couldn't control his idol at all. Idol, Almighty Qin said not to let you rub your eyes. The Almighty is in the competition and can't see here. If you don't say anything, who will know? In fact, Fujio wanted to rub her eyes even more at this moment. It wasn't that she didn't believe in the Almighty's strength. She was worried about the Almighty's hand. But if the Almighty lost today, she would find a chance to kill Shuji more than 10 times. Thinking of this, Fujio was about to raise her hand again. Chinemo happened to turn his head, and his deep eyes were full of meaning. This was why it was hard to deal with a psychic. Whatever she did, he would know in advance. Fujio had no choice. She put her hand down, smiled, and grabbed the phone that baby Feng was keeping for the Almighty. Feng Shang felt that he really couldn't deal with his idol, the bandit. Could he find someone else to watch him? Fujio took the phone and sent a WeChat message to Chin Mo. Brother Mo, are you going to look back to see if I'm rubbing my eyes during the competition? Chin Mo paused, took out the phone from his pocket, and then tilted his head to type. If you don't want me to look back, be a good boy. Now give back the phone you took from Feng Shang. Seeing the Almighty looking at her, Fujio threw the phone at Feng Shang with a lollipop in her mouth and laughed. I told you not to give it to me. Why are you so disobedient? Feng Shang. Who was the one who came up to grab it? Who was it? The people of Sakura Stream also noticed that Fujio didn't come down. Shuji's eyes suddenly changed and he was very angry. What do you mean? He spoke in Tokyo dialect. But this didn't affect Manager Feng's acceptance. Oh, this is our battle lineup today. Little Spade won't participate. Won't participate. Shuji's hands were almost broken. He had prepared for a long time, but the other side told him that he wouldn't participate. Let him come down. Shuji gritted his teeth, his face fierce. After listening to his words, the fans in the audience began to look at each other. What's going on? I don't know. Shuji seems very unhappy. Did that team do something wrong? Taking advantage of the wind, Shuji sneered. Your unknown team without him. Are you sure you can beat me? Let me tell you. I want to compete with him. Tell him to come down. Yunhu understood Dongjing dialect. After hearing his words, he suddenly turned around, his aura extremely cold. Yamaguchi couldn't help reprimanding. Shuji. Shut up. Am I wrong? Shuji tilted his head. I know Captain is afraid of that Chin Mo. He hasn't played in the professional league for a year. How strong can he be? I'm giving Supreme Alliance a chance by sending that person out. Upon hearing this, Fujio's beautiful eyes narrowed. She held on to the railing with one hand and jumped down from the audience. Her black coat was lifted up, and her cool pose drew gasps from the audience. Chapter 349. Under everyone's gaze. That handsome young man, who looked like a vampire aristocrat, walked up to Shuji with his hands in his pocket. He was so bloodthirsty and cold, like an avenger coming out of the darkness. That Chin Mo? Fujio tilted her head, and her eyes were cold. How dare you call my brother that? Shuji wasn't annoyed but felt his blood boiling. It's hot, isn't it? If it's hot, do it yourself. Do it myself. Fujio paused and curled up her lips. I won't. To be honest, I've met a lot of people like you. Why should I compete with you just because you want me to? Is the Sakura Stream team a bandit, forcing others to compete? Feng Shang. Idol, believe me, no one looks more like a bandit than you right now. Fujio said this in a Tokyo accent, and the crowd burst into an uproar. The opponent's agent hurried over and said, No, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. Can't you guys just shut up and compete properly? Fujio was a very protective person, and in her mind, the Almighty was the only one who had made her suffer. If the opponent said bad things about the Almighty, it would be like asking for death. Chin Mo didn't expect that the young man would have such a big reaction, although the timing wasn't right. But looking at the young man's fierce look, he was in a good mood for no reason. He walked over and rubbed the young man's head. Okay, go back. Remember, don't rub your eyes. Fujio. How did the Almighty do it? He didn't forget to warn her at this time. Shuji was so angry that his chest was churning. Now there was only one thought in his mind, and that was to destroy the opponent and make the young man regret what he said just now. Thinking of this, he turned his head and was the first to sit in front of the computer. He pulled his fingers and put on the pure black headphones. The agent finally let out a sigh of relief. After all, he couldn't control Shuji. The teammates of Sakura's Stream Team didn't say anything. They knew what kind of player Shuji was. The opponent thought that Shuji was impatient and wanted to irritate him, but they didn't know that the angrier he was, the more brutal he would be when he killed someone. Compared to Shuji's murderous look, Almighty Chin was casual and noble. His slender fingers slid over the headphones, and he held the mouse in a very beautiful gesture. It made people feel like he wasn't holding a mouse, but a chess piece. In front of him was a chessboard. The young master was like jade. He didn't expect to see such inviolable people in modern times. This was the first thought that came to the minds of the audience. His second thought was, of course, to let Shuji kill them all as soon as possible. However, it was different from the people here. Among the two Supreme Alliance fans, one of them already felt like his blood was about to boil. 1 year. For a whole year, Almighty Chin hadn't played in a professional league like this. Although it was just a friendly match, only those who had played the game knew how exciting it was to be able to see it live. Crack. The game's music started playing. The scene officially entered. It was synchronized to the big screen in the arena. He's here. The two reporters raised their cameras. Even the commentators did not know why, but this time, they felt nervous like never before. Not to mention Shui Yaoyao, who was sitting in front of the computer. She only felt that her palms were sweating, but her eyes were very firm. This was the first battle. This was the first battle she would prove herself in. Attack. Chin Mo said these words lightly, but with a different kind of power. Chapter 350. There were 3 ways to attack. Left, center, and right. These 5 players, except for Shui Yaoyao, were all professionals. Not to mention the opponent's lineup. Cool. So fast. Sakura Stream Team will win this round. Whether it was the 2 reporters or the fans in the audience, they all had the same opinion. After all, just from the screen, they knew that Sakura Stream Team was not only fast, but also had 3 players in the middle lane. Seeing that they had almost reached the Crystal Tower, 3 or 4 strong attacks, the firepower was very fierce. Destroyed. The tower is going to be destroyed. But was it really destroyed? They saw a person suddenly accelerate and rush directly to this side. Originally, the 3 players of Sakura Stream Team were not afraid. But they didn't expect that a stun came out of nowhere. The 3 players were collectively frozen. That person concentrated his energy, first killed one with a sweep, and finally turned back for a critical hit. Yunhu double kill. My god! Who is this person so powerful? The fans in the audience were a little stunned. However, other than Yunhu, no one else had seen the person who had used the fatal stun that had assisted him. The people of the Supreme Alliance finally breathed a sigh of relief. But even with a double kill, the situation was not optimistic. Because their bottom lane was attacked again. And Shuji double kill. Double kill? Did that mean that Yin Wuyao and Lin Feng didn't stop him? They were all killed by Shuji. The people of the Supreme Alliance trembled, everyone became nervous, and even clenched their hands. However, almost in the next second, Shui Yaoyao only saw a line of words appear on the screen in front of her. Our defense tower has been destroyed. Beautiful. The commentator couldn't help sighing in Tokyo dialect. It seems that Shuji's hand speed has become faster these days. His attack power is also amazing. This time, the people of the Supreme Alliance are in big trouble. Lin Feng didn't expect that he would die. His eyes were heavy, and he typed in the dialogue box. After the sneak attack, he retreated very fast. Should we add another player to go down the bottom lane? No need. The person who spoke was Chin Mo. Even though he was still fighting in front, no one expected him to have the time to reply. Both of you walk in tandem, stick close to the bushes. Lin Feng grunted in acknowledgement. After recovering his health in the center of the city, he and Yin Wuyao continued to attack the bottom lane. Xiao and Ren are gone. Strange, there's nothing in the bushes here either. At this moment, someone shouted. He's on the middle lane. Shuji was indeed in the middle lane. He approached Chin Mo on purpose, looking for a chance to sneak attack. How could Lin Feng let him have his way? He sped up and blocked with his sword before sweeping horizontally. Motherf *Ker, I didn't hit it. The other party was too fast and good at fighting in the wild, just like the information said. Even if he and Yin Wuyao worked together, they would only be able to take out half of his health. When Shuji restarted, his HP was full. Then he did another sweep. A rumbling sound rang out. Shuji double kill. Another double kill? Everyone in Supreme Alliance paled. For lives, Lin Feng and Yin Wuyao had already died twice. If they died again, they would be asked to leave the field by the referee. That also meant that the 5v5 would become a 3v5, 3 against 5. It would be a tough fight. Chapter 351. Fortunately, their performance in the middle lane was good, and they took down 2 defense towers in a row. The next defense tower was the opponent's main city. However, it was obvious that Yunhu's HP was gone, and only a little bit of HP was left to support him. Any random person would be able to kill him in a second. If Yunhu died, they would lose 5 lives. It seems that the situation of the Supreme Alliance is not optimistic. TSK, I guess Shuji is not interested in this game. His opponents are too weak. I know, right? That reporter curled his lips and looked very disdainful. I don't know what the opponent's captain is doing. Does he really deserve to be the captain? He is not even as good as that guy named Yunhu. Didn't Shuji just say that his hand was injured? Another reporter was quite understanding. I don't think it's because of the injury. It's because he is too lousy. When the discussion outside the field started, Fujio was still sitting in the same position, with her right hand behind her back and a lollipop in her mouth, but she didn't rub her eyes again. Fengsheng was anxious. He wished he could be on the field now so he could help. At this time, Shuji had already started to attack the second defense tower on their right. Lin Feng was a little anxious and wanted to rush over. Then Qin Mo sent a message. Don't go out of the tower, just defend. It meant that they shouldn't attack. Lin Feng and Yin Wuyao also knew that it was not suitable for them to attack now. But they were worried about one thing. What if Shuji attacks the captain from the side when he sees that we don't go out? Yunhu's status showed that he was still healing in the city. That meant that there were only 2 people under the defense tower in the middle lane, Shui Yaoyao and the captain. If Shuji went over, it would probably be another double kill. Let him come. 3 words. A tone that was not painful at all. Even Yin Wuyao, who had never played with Qin Mo in the league tournament, felt an indescribable passion rise in his heart when he saw that sentence. As for Lin Feng, his eyes, which had been filled with anxiety, gradually calmed down. After killing the monsters, he ran back to the defensive tower. At this time, Shui Yaoyao sent a kill and killed a member of Sakura Stream Squad. Seeing this, Shuji immediately changed his route and went to outflank Qin Mo. This time, the other party is probably going to be annihilated. That's right, there's no point in killing one person. There are still 2 people left in Sakura Stream. Yo, are they starting to run back? I've never seen such a cowardly captain. While the reporters were still talking, the 2 members of Sakura Stream Squad rushed towards Qin Mo. Shui Yaoyao stood under the defense tower, her hand holding the mouse tightly. She had the urge to turn around and run. However, she didn't forget that before they set off, Almighty Qin said that this path was mainly for attacking, so she couldn't retreat. It was as though Supreme Alliance was being chased and beaten. Yunhu's HP was full. But what was the point? In such a short time, it was impossible for him to return to the middle lane to help. Chapter 352. What on earth is the captain of the Supreme Alliance doing? He can't even beat a female player. How on earth did he become the captain? That's right. Female players all know how to kill people. They don't know anything except being chased. Isn't this just in line with the image of the Chinese people? Speaking of this, the audience burst into laughter. The 2 players of Sakura Stream Squad were in a killing frenzy, and they rushed forward recklessly. Yamaguchi was still on the left lane, and he was about to tell them not to go. But it was too late. The 2 players saw that Shuji was about to arrive, so they didn't have anything to be afraid of. They had to kill each other once. They are looking for death. These 4 were Fujio's words. She had a faint smile on the corner of her mouth, but if you looked closely, you would find that it was full of bloodthirst. As soon as she finished her words, the three of them appeared behind Chin-mo. Shuji was behind the two players. The people in front of him launched two big moves at Chin-mo. According to logic, two killing one should be enough. But in that second, Chin-mo moved and avoided one of the attacks. When the other attack came, he had already entered the defense line. How could the people of Sakura Stream Squad miss such a good opportunity? Now in their minds, Chin-mo's skills were so bad that they couldn't be any worse. Probably because of his hand injury, his momentum was so weak that it was pitiful. Shuji didn't care about the opponent's reason. With such bad skills, how could he fight with him? He waved the mouse and sped up, ready to kill Chin-mo and Shui Yaoyao together. It was so aggressive. The fans of Sakura Stream Squad already felt that there was no suspense. It was absolutely a double kill. However, what they didn't expect was that Chin-mo, who they thought was very bad, actually turned a sword shadow at this moment, and a huge wind rose around him. The bright light almost occupied the whole screen. The two players closest to him were instantly killed by his two back and forth movements, and they only had one drop of HP left. The two players of Sakura Stream Squad were stunned, and they wanted to run back immediately. At this time, Shui Yaoyao swept across with a big move and with a bang 2 kills. Shuji didn't retreat. He also saw that the captain of the Supreme Alliance could only sweep back and do nothing else. Although the sweep was quite accurate, it was useless against him. Shuji wielded the keyboard, manipulated his game character, and directly stabbed Chin-mo's face. Before the commentator could say anything, the fans shouted, "Is that person stupid? He ran so hard just now, and now he's sending himself to death." Shuji also narrowed his eyes, and the murderous intent in the corner of his mouth was obviously mocking. "Trash, go to hell." With his speed, no one could stop him. Unless it was that young man, there was still a possibility. Someone else? Shuji. Yamaguchi almost couldn't help but shout. However, it was already too late. The moment the opponent ran over, Chin-mo leaped up. Even his silver battle robe had a white halo around it as he used a critical strike. Under the dazzling special effect, people could only see that 2/3 of Shuji's HP bar was instantly killed. It's alright. Shuji's hands were fast, he could definitely run away. Those are the words of a reporter. Fujio sat there and curled up the corner of her mouth. You aren't the only people in the world who are fast at cultivating. Run away? Since he had fished her up. Chapter 353. Fujio tilted her head, and with a lollipop in her mouth, she gently spat out 2 words. Heyo. Then. The people on the scene only heard a booming sound. Chin-mo turned his hand over, holding the mouse and pressing the keys with his left hand. The long sword flashed and hit Shuji right in the middle. That kind of attack. Handsome, unruly, and invincible. Everyone looked at this scene in a daze, and they all felt an unprecedented shock from their eyes. What on earth was that? 3,000 knife cutting. This is the real 3,000 knife cutting. A fan of the Supreme Alliance stood up in the audience, and his voice was so loud that it almost shook people's eardrums, which showed how excited he was. 3,000 knife cutting? What was that? People almost didn't believe that Shuji would die like this. However, the screen did show the logo of KO. They looked down and saw Chin-mo, who was sitting in front of the computer. That man was so handsome that he looked like he came out of a comic book. He wore headphones on his pure black hair, and the whole screen was filled with silver light. However, did he think that it was over? Not at all. The man's slender fingers held the mouse, and with a very handsome posture, he turned around and rushed straight. Only a booming sound. The last defense crystal tower in the middle lane of Sakura Stream Team was destroyed. The commentators couldn't come out. How could they explain it? Not only did he kill people, but he also went back to attack the city. The people of Sakura Stream Team suddenly fell into silence. In one team, there were 4 people in the state of resurrection. Except for Yamaguchi, who was on the road, he was still there. The other 3 players only felt that their arms were numb. What on earth was that? Yamaguchi's deep voice came over. 3,000 knife cutting. Isn't 3000 knife cutting a unique skill? This was what everyone understood it to mean. They all knew that when the captain of the Supreme Alliance turned around to deal with them for the first time, he used this unique skill. 3000 silver lights flashed, they all saw it. But what was that later? This time, Yamaguchi not only lowered his voice, but also his eyes. For Chin-mo, 3000 knife cutting is not just a simple unique skill, but 3 goals he wants to achieve. Originally, there was no time to talk. But Yamaguchi couldn't rush to the middle lane. Rushing over was courting death. On the contrary, if he destroyed another tower here on the top lane, they still had hope to win. After listening to Yamaguchi's description, the 3 members of Sakura Stream were all stunned. 3 targets. What the captain meant was, that person had planned it from the very beginning. First, he would reduce the 2 of them to 1 drop of HP. Then let his teammates kill them. Then he would go and kill Shuji. His final goal was to attack their defense tower. What 3000 knife cutting? It's just luck. Shuji was very unconvinced, and his eyes were gloomy. If I also had a teammate to heal me, I could also continuously cast spells and have a healer keep up with me. 3 targets? Ha, then I will break his saber. After saying that, Shuji rushed out. 2 of the Sakura Stream members didn't believe that anyone could have such a precise plan. They waved their weapons and shouted, "I'll heal. I'll support you." The 3 of them set off together. Yamaguchi didn't have time to stop him. Chapter 354. He didn't trust Yamaguchi 100%. His commanding power was scattered, and he was arrogant and conceited. People who didn't know would think they had 2 captains now. Maybe this was the disadvantage of a rookie king. He was too arrogant, and the manager of Sakura Stream team didn't want to discipline him. The Almighty had probably noticed this from the start. That was why he attacked like this. But compared with provoking people, the Almighty was better. He knew that Shuji was easily agitated, but he killed him in the grass with the field battle that Shuji was good at. It could be seen that Shuji had lost all his judgment. As soon as he saw Chin-mo turn around and run, he immediately ordered, "Chase him." But they didn't notice that Yin, who had resurrected at this time. Yin Wuyao and Lin Feng on the right side also began to quickly move to the center. All of a sudden, they formed an encirclement on the left and the front. Seeing that the people chasing in front of him were gone, Shuji realized something and wanted to retreat. But Yunhu and Shui Yaorao had already rushed over. They had seen Yunhu's fierceness, so they used a big move. One of them immediately lost half of his HP. The 2 who had only died once thought that Lin Feng and Yin Wuyao didn't dare to fight close to them at this time, so they wanted to attack Yunhu and then retreat. But they didn't expect that the opponents didn't hesitate at all. They directly rushed over and stood in front of Yunhu, and then used a big move. Hell! 2 members of Sakura Stream team died instantly. Shuji was the first to notice the danger, so he directly jumped into the grass without saying anything. He wanted to ambush there, and when Lin Feng and Yin Wuyao came over, he would give them a big move from the back. Because it was clear that Lin Feng and Yin Wuyao had lost HP. Yunhu went to kill their captain, so he was the most suitable person to guard here. But what Shuji didn't expect was that as soon as he squatted down, swoosh, his back was pierced through. It was just like when he had killed someone before. Someone had hidden in the bushes and slashed him with a knife. Who was it? Shuji's eyes were red. He moved his mouse and wanted to fight back. But it was useless. Chin-mo moved beautifully and fixed him with skills. Then he started to beat him up. Shuji had never been humiliated like this before. The people in the Sakura Stream audience didn't know what to say, and everyone covered their mouths. The 2 reporters were even more speechless. Those fans who said that it was in line with the style of Chinese people shut their mouths. His face hurt from the slap. But Feng Shang didn't understand. Idol, why didn't the Almighty use a critical strike and kill him directly? Why is he still beating him up bit by bit? Fujio wasn't sure either. If it were her, she could just freeze and kill him directly, which would save a lot of time. However, very soon they knew the answer. Chin-mo typed slowly. "Does it feel good to kill you like this?" Shuji, who had a little bit of HP left, might have had a chance to escape. With a bang, he stood up from his seat. He clenched his fists and looked over at Supreme Alliance with a dark gaze. Qin Mo took advantage of this gap and moved his mouse, KO. The enemy's entire team was annihilated. Fujio looked at this scene and seriously compared herself with the Almighty. In comparison, the Almighty was more shameless. What was the name of her provocation just now? It was not as real as the Almighty's provocation. Chapter 355. Shuji's face turned red and white as he watched himself fall down in blood. He didn't understand why the other party had to kill him like this, bit by bit. Manager Feng understood a little. After all, he knew his Almighty so well. According to the Almighty's style, he wouldn't cut people down so slowly, unless... Has this Shuji met Boss Qin before? Feng asked his brother. Feng Shang stuttered as he recounted what had happened at the training ground that day. His face was filled with anger. After Manager Feng heard this, he instantly understood and said meaningfully, CEO Qin is helping someone get revenge. Revenge? Feng Shang didn't understand. Then the person who won that day was my idol. Feng Yi patted his brother's shoulder. Young man, you're still too young. Boss Qin was the kind of person who would blame Spadezi's eye inflammation on that match. So when he killed Shuji, it was clear that he wanted to hang him up and beat him. Yamaguchi knew that they were bound to lose this game. He wanted to go back and defend, but he was the only one who had resurrected. He could no longer withstand the attacks of the other 5. Individually, everyone in Sakura Stream might have great abilities, and any one of them was much more powerful than Shui Yaoyao, but they were too scattered. 5 people attacked the city together. How could Yamaguchi resist? Especially when Qin Mo changed his previous attacking style. After seeing Yamaguchi, he didn't even hesitate. First he stunned him, and then he made a big move. Then he retreated and unleashed another long-range critical strike. His hand speed was so fast that it was almost beautiful. Apart from the silver light flashing again, the only thing that could be seen was a brief pause before he raised his sword and advanced again. Qin Mo gave an order to Yinhu, who was standing beside him. Stop them. Yes. Yinhu didn't waste time. He risked losing HP and rushed in for a critical strike. As Yamaguchi fell, Shui Yaoyao sent out a healing skill, and all the Supreme Alliance members were instantly full of HP. The 5 of them unleashed their ultimate moves in succession, directly destroying the enemy's city. The silver letters that symbolized victory filled the entire screen. Shuji didn't even have the chance to revive. He could only watch helplessly. Yamaguchi's right hand seemed to be shocked. He originally thought that he could at least hold on until all his teammates were resurrected. However, what he didn't expect was, compared to the greenhorn Qin Mo of the past, the current Qin Mo was frighteningly strong. How did he do it? How did he calculate so accurately? The audience of Sakura Stream School fell into complete silence this time. They had never expected such an ending. Sakura Stream was one of the top 4 teams in the country. How could they be beaten by a small Chinese team to the point where they were powerless to retaliate? But reality was right in front of him. They had no choice but to believe it. At the same time, the most valuable member of the team appeared on the screen. Qin Mo. At this moment, some people were unconvinced. Even if the Huaxia team wins, shouldn't the MVP award be given to Shuji? He got 2 double kills. Even the captain of Supreme Alliance didn't kill many people. What right does he have to be the MVP? However, in the next second, these people automatically fell silent. This was because the opponent's battle record had also appeared on the screen. Chapter 356. 10 assists. When did this happen? Why didn't they notice it? And the whole Sakura Stream team only died 12 times in total. That was to say, 10 of them were related to Qin Mo? Is the data wrong? Some people didn't believe it at all. But one of the processes of the esports competition was that the most valuable players' fighting scene would be shown separately. People didn't know what was going on until Qin Mo's actions were enlarged on the screen. They didn't realize it until they saw it. At the beginning, half of the reason why Tiger Cloud could kill so quickly was because Chin Mo had stunned the opponent from behind, which fixed the members of Sakura Stream Squad on this side. Not to mention that Shui Yaoyao's first kill was also because of Chin Mo. People didn't see it before because Chin Mo's speed was too fast. Now, after being replayed, people realized how beautiful Chin Mo's operation was and how fast his hand speed was. Under the dazzling silver screen, technical movement, and every attack had a purpose. How well did he know each skill to be able to do this? The Supreme Alliance's captain, who they had been yelling about, only knew how to run away, had done so many things without them knowing. Another surprising thing was that he didn't die at all. And he never went back to the city. He only relied on the health bags along the way and Shui Yaoyao's healing to KO the whole team. The most valuable player that couldn't be refuted. Seeing such a result, everyone shut up. The expressions of the fans, who originally wanted to argue, were obviously frozen. Shuji lowered his head, clenched his hands, and pressed his thin lips into a line. But now he didn't have the right to be angry. The obvious gap was there. He did kill 4 times, but he didn't have a single assist. But what about the opponent? 10 times. Shuji had thought that the teenager was the best in the Supreme Alliance. Now it didn't seem so. That man didn't talk much from beginning to end. He just stood there, with a handsome and noble side profile. He thought he was just a soft-footed shrimp. He didn't even care about the captain's warning, and just rushed forward. But Shuji's chest had never been so depressed. If he could do it again, he would never be like this. What he regretted the most was underestimating the man named Chin Mo. The 2 reporters were speechless. Amidst the great silence, the members of Supreme Alliance took off their headphones and stood up. Perhaps it was because they were wearing the same uniform. He always gave people the feeling that he could sweep away an army of 1,000. When Chin Mo was walking back, Fujio was already standing there. Her left hand was in her pocket, and her right arm was raised high. She was smiling. Chin Mo extended his hand as well. There was a clap. The 2 of them clapped handsomely. Such a scene would only make one's blood boil. Those who saw it would never be able to feel that kind of shock as those who experienced it personally. Shui Yaoyao's palms were still sweating. A lot of people said that Almighty Chin's mechanics were amazing, but she didn't feel much about it. After all, she was a girl and couldn't understand it. Even when she played games in the past, she only felt that Almighty Chin's mechanics were amazing. But now her heart was beating. He couldn't suppress his throbbing for a long time. Everything stemmed from personal experience. Almighty Chin's every assist, every move, every defense, and every kill. Only she could see it clearly. So much so that after the game was over, her fingers were trembling. Not because of timidity, not because of her previous inferiority complex. But she had a firm belief. She wanted to stay in the Supreme Alliance, even if many people didn't think highly of this industry. Even if she would suffer all kinds of ridicule. She still wanted to stay. Even if she failed one day, she wouldn't regret having such a reckless youth. Compared with the solemn atmosphere of the Supreme Alliance, the atmosphere of Sakura Stream Team was too stiff. The agent probably hadn't come back to his senses yet. In his mind, this was just a small game, and he could easily beat the opponent. But the result? If this kind of thing got out, he didn't know how much face he would lose. The agent got angry. He walked in front of Yamaguchi and growled. How on earth did you become the captain? Or are you too old, and your hand speed can't keep up? If you can't be the captain, let Shuji be. Look at your own record. Have you ever killed a person? Yamaguchi didn't speak, but his face was too silent. When his hair fell down, no one could see his expression clearly. Fujio listened to the admonishment and subconsciously raised her eyebrows. Because it was too quiet around them, every word that the agent said was clearly heard by everyone. Fengyi, who was also the agent, glanced over here. You can't even beat a small team. Yamaguchi, I am now officially informing you that you are not suitable to be the captain of Sakura Stream Team. I will report this to the club. If you insist on this, then I have to ask the manager to come forward and directly kick you out of Sakura Stream Team. This is also for the development of the team. After all, you are too old to play anymore. Yamaguchi didn't want to give up. I have already said that Shuji should be the captain, but you said that now is not the right time. Look at the final result. You can't even beat a small team. Hearing that, In Wuyao only felt that it was very familiar. Once upon a time, he was also treated like this. You are so old. Why are you still playing esports? Look at yourself. Can you still make money? He thought he had forgotten all about it. In fact, the pain hidden in the bottom of his heart would all come out as long as he mentioned it. Why couldn't he play esports when he was old? There were many reasons for losing a game. Shouldn't he think about how to become stronger? In Wuyao didn't dare to look back. He was afraid that if he looked back he would see his past self. He understood something that no one else could understand. Yamaguchi, the player he respected very much, couldn't escape the fate of being abandoned like this. And he couldn't do anything about it. However, at this time, two voices rang in his ears at the same time. One was cold and indifferent, and the other was smiling evilly. Are you sure he is the reason for losing? It was the captain and the captain. In Wuyao jerked his head up and looked in their direction. Chapter 357. Fujio put her arm on Chinmo's shoulder and said with a smile in her voice, "Since Sakura Stream Team doesn't want their main force, Brother Mo, how about we poach him?" Chinmo said faintly and looked at the agent. "How much is the price?" "Yamaguchi is a heavyweight player, so it shouldn't be low. You can ask for anything. If you can invite him, the Supreme Alliance will be very happy." This is directly talking about money? The agent really couldn't see how worthy Yamaguchi was to be poached. He opened his mouth wide and was stunned there. Yamaguchi was the most shocked. He raised his head and looked at his former opponent, and his eyes shook violently. It was not that he wasn't disappointed. In front of so many people, when the agent accused him, he had thought that the players he had coached would speak for him. But there was no one. The feeling of being abandoned was so obvious that he didn't even want to say a word. He could only say that the times were different. He still remembered when they used to compete. That group of old friends would look for reasons after they lost, and they would eat sushi and drink sake when they found the reason. But his old friends all left, and he didn't want to leave. He thought he could still play, and he wanted to stay because he liked this industry. It turned out that he was still too naive. Just when he thought he was going to be crushed by this sense of powerlessness, he didn't expect that the people who stood up for him were his opponent Chinemo, and the silver-haired teenager who Shuji said he would teach a lesson. Enough. That was enough. Yamaguchi stood up, as if a heavy responsibility had been removed from his body. "Sorry, I refuse. I still want to have another fight with the Supreme Alliance, a serious fight. However, I will not stay in Sakura Stream Team. I will go to a better team, so that I can be worthy of you." When he said this, his eyes were bright. The more he respected his opponent, the more his attitude was like this. Chinemo glanced at him and said only 4 words in a flat voice, "I'll wait for you." Then he wanted to turn around. As for the reaction of the agent and players of Sakura Stream Team, he didn't care at all. Fujio was still laughing. She said softly, "If it weren't for Captain Yamaguchi, my brother Emo would have killed all of you in seconds. Bro, before you teach people a lesson, look at the results. Did you see the assists? Also, Captain Yamaguchi destroyed 2 of our defense towers on the way. If it wasn't for the fact that we had to return to defend against your men, our last defense tower would have been taken down by him. If you don't know anything, ask more. Don't make yourself look so ignorant." If Fujio didn't say it, Sakura Stream fans wouldn't know what was going on. Now that he heard the reason, he understood everything. There were quite a few old fans among them, and they immediately stood up. His eyes looked at Yamaguchi. "Lord Yamaguchi, we'll go wherever you go." It wasn't much, but it was enough to shake people's hearts. It was not only Yamaguchi who felt touched, but also In Wuyao. The reason why they were able to persevere until now was because of God. Apart from the fact that it was their dream, it was also because the people who supported them were still around. Although there was only a little bit of light. However, as long as these people were still around, they had the motivation to continue forward. And on Sakura Stream's side, Chapter 358. That agent didn't expect this situation. He said those words just to let Yamaguchi know his position, but now, looking at those condemnations from all directions, especially when there were reporters standing in front of them, as if they wanted to write this scene into the news, he only felt that the sweat on his forehead was about to come out, and then he said softly, "Yamaguchi, you know I don't mean that. It's just that the result this time is not good. Don't talk about leaving so easily. Your contract is still there, and it's not good for anyone." Obviously, the agent was telling Yamaguchi not to make trouble. But this time Yamaguchi, who had always been patient, couldn't bear it anymore. "I will pay the liquidated damages, and from now on, I will have nothing to do with Sakura Stream Club." Fujio heard that and looked at Yamaguchi seriously. "Captain Yamaguchi, let my brother Mo pay. It doesn't matter if you don't join the Supreme Alliance. Our family is also a club. Within a year, we have sent countless esports elites to China such as me. So you can consider joining me, and the treatment is..." Yamaguchi looked at the youngster. Before he finished his words, he was dragged away by Chin Mo by the back of his collar. That indifferent and noble voice could be heard faintly. "Countless esports elites? Such as you? Oh, besides you, who else is trained by the He clan? Yao Yao, Baby Feng, Uncle Ian, Brother Mo, you can't not see them." Fujio was dragged like that, still trying to move Yamaguchi. "Captain Yamaguchi, you also saw that among the players who just played, there was our He clan army. I welcome you here at any time, Yamaguchi." I always feel that the youngster is not looking for people to join, but more like promoting a product. After listening to Fujio, he went straight to the point. "Two are self-taught and one is a top-notch player. He just joined the He clan the day before the game. Have you trained him before?" Fujio felt that the Almighty was tearing down her stage and not cooperating with her at all, which was really not good. So she hooked up her lips and smiled. "Even if it's only me, it's worth countless people." Little Fujio. Chin Mo let go of his hand and stopped. Fujio finally saved her collar. She tidied it up and didn't even look up. "Brother Mo, is that your nickname for me?" Hearing this, Chin Mo turned his head, his left hand empty, and he gently patted the youngster's face. "If you don't shut up, I'm going to be even more intimate with you." He was threatening her again. Fujio felt that she couldn't live with this anymore. She was just about to go over and flirt with him, but she couldn't resist his next sentence. "Your eyes are still a little red. Where are the eye drops?" "It's in my pocket." Fujio felt that she was being too obedient. Perhaps it was because he was rarely taken care of. Once he had a taste of it, he felt that he could calm down. Yin Wuyao stood at the side, his eyes unmoving. After noticing that Uncle Yin was looking at her, Fujio tilted her head and smiled, as if she didn't need to say anything. Yin Wuyao paused for a moment, then laughed along with them. A large part of the reason why the captain stood out this time was that the current Yamaguchi was very similar to him in the past. "I don't remember who said that if you are injured, don't give up. Let those injuries become your armor in battle." You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.